Are we really saying that we cannot accept several weeks of oil prices maybe being higher than what they should be to take Iran off the map as a predator in the Middle East for decades to come? Is that what we're really saying? That we're so preoccupied with that we're not willing to make that kind of a sacrifice here? I think not. I mean, I think we got to open our eyes, get a little clear-eyed about what is really happening here. And if we fall prey to walking away on this prematurely over oil prices, we've just given Iran a win. They certainly want that.
Well, that's a great point.
No, that isn't a great point. And no, I'm not willing to deal with higher oil prices and inflation in order to risk and sacrifice our troops in the Middle East to fight Iran on behalf of Israel. That's my take. But apparently retired General Jack Keane disagrees with that take. And while I'm sure he's doing pretty well for himself, he thinks the rest of America should just grin and bear the economic turmoil that has already resulted from our involvement in this war in the Middle East, again, on behalf of Israel. But Cenk, your 2 cents?
Yeah, I couldn't tell if he had an American and Israeli flag on his pin. But that would be accurate at least, because he obviously has dual loyalty. And you have to remember that a lot of our retired generals are crooks. And they work for defense contractors or as lobbyists, and they get paid to lie to you on television to start more wars. And Jack Keane, to me, looks like a guy who doesn't love this country at all and serves another country. So I'm not going to mince words about that, and I don't give a goddamn what he thinks and how, I'm so brave. Yeah, go be brave for Israel. Get back into the services and bring your sorry ass to the front line. Then I'll believe you, okay? Instead of starting wars from a distance. Anyways, as you're gonna see here, this is gonna do significant damage to our economy, but they'll tell us, no, suck it up for Israel. All right, go ahead, Anna.
So, look, publicly, you'll hear from Republican lawmakers who are kind of downplaying the economic pain that comes along with attacking a Middle Eastern oil-producing country like Iran. You know, a country that controls the Strait of Hormuz, where 20% of our oil and gas is transported through. So again, publicly, they'll downplay the impact of that. But privately, Republican lawmakers are absolutely panicking because their political careers are on the line. One anonymous House Republican spoke to Politico and said, if you are a Republican and not concerned right now, you are stupid. Hopefully, we will square this away sooner than later. Now, I just want to point to the cowardice of these lawmakers, because you'll notice that they were only willing to speak to Politico as long as their identities were withheld from the public. If this is what you genuinely think, you are elected to represent the people. So it is incumbent upon you to identify yourself and speak openly about what you actually think about this war against Iran. But nonetheless, he or she is not the only person who's concerned here. Politico asked another anonymous House Republican if the economic pain from the Iran war would undo any potential benefit from last year's big beautiful bill, right? Where supposedly ordinary American workers got massive tax cuts. As we know, the majority of those tax cuts were concentrated at the very top with the highest earners. But working class Americans did get some tax cuts. Now, the Republican stated in response to that question, hell yes, meaning that this war is undoing the benefits of the big, beautiful bill. Further, this individual says, the most sensitive thing among most driving Americans is the price of gasoline. The person added, saying it threatens to send Americans right up the wall. I totally agree on that. There's also one Republican who's not hiding behind anonymity, and this individual deserves a lot of credit, and that's Rand Paul. Take a look.
I think the 2026 elections already, we are behind the 8 ball as far as the electoral process. I think if you add in high gas prices, high oil prices, and if we are still bombing Iran with kinetic action, people don't want to call it war, but if there's still kinetic action that causes oil to be over $100, I think you're going to see a disastrous election.
I think he's right about that. And look, to be fair to Rand Paul, he's usually pretty good on issues of war and peace, as I would say most libertarians are. I might not agree with their economic policies, but when it comes to avoiding these foreign entanglements, libertarians, for the most part, seem to be on the money. That's why Thomas Massie in the House is a registered Republican, but his ideology is more libertarian. That's why he doesn't want to spend all this money and get involved in a war that we shouldn't be involved in at all. Now, Republicans were planning to campaign on the big, beautiful bill, but the Iran war may have thrown a monkey wrench into those plans, because according to investment banker Raymond James, almost all of the economic effects of the individual tax cuts in the big, beautiful bill, from both smaller withholdings and sweetened tax refunds, could be erased if oil prices remain elevated by more than $20 compared with prices before the US-Iran war. And if you're wondering, okay, well, how does the math work out? The Tax Foundation estimates that the individual tax cuts from the big, beautiful bill total $129 billion for 2025. And according to Raymond James, if oil prices remain $20 above what they were prior to the war, then consumers would pay about $150 billion in total on gas. So more in gas. And so higher oil prices combined with the fluctuating labor market are why some Wall Street analysts are predicting that stagflation could also be just around the corner. However, that's not the overall consensus just yet, so I don't want you guys to panic too much. Although, honestly, Cenk, when you look at inflation, how sticky it has been even prior to this war, when you consider the fact that inflation is set to be much worse, considering the fact that this war is sacrificing oil and gas supply, I don't really see a bright future when it comes to our economy. But who knows? Maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe I'm wrong. What do you think?
Yeah, no, we got nothing but disaster ahead. But I want to talk more specifically about the Strait of Hormuz and how it's driving up gas prices. So Donald Trump says, oh, what are people so worried about? You know what? You should risk your life and try to cross the Strait of Hormuz. Have some courage. Which I told you yesterday, my answer to Donald Trump would be, if I was on one of those tankers, you first. Okay, you come sit at the mast of our ship and pull a James Cameron, a Titanic, and go, I'm king of the world. I'm invading Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, and Greenland, right? Okay, and then we'll cross the Strait of Hormuz. But you're not gonna do that because it is risky, right? And then he says, okay, well, we'll guarantee your insurance. First of all, that insurance isn't gonna help the guy on the boat who's gonna be dead once the ship sinks. But okay, it's not him making the decision, it's the corporation. And that might affect the corporation's decision, and that might work. But who's paying the insurance? Oh, right, we are as US taxpayers, right? So we pay for all the interceptor missiles, not just for our troops. In fact, not predominantly for our troops, predominantly for Israel. And we pay for all of our fleet being there. We pay for the war. Now we have to pay for insurance. And on top of that, we have to pay the higher oil prices. So when we tell you that the war is costing $1 to $2 billion a day, that does not include the price of gas and all the other consequences that flow from this war. So this war is costing us a fortune. And as we've told you in the past, the global war on terror was literally a global war on Israel's enemies. And so that cost us $8 trillion. And what's the benefit we got out of it? Zero. And you all know that now, right? Even the Republicans hated the Iraq war, the Afghanistan war, all this global war on terror junk cost this country so many good young men and trillions of dollars. And now everybody concedes that. Oh, by the way, did anyone get something out of it? Of course, Israel did. Iran used to help Hamas and Hezbollah and the proxies. They don't anymore. They now have a puppet leader. And there's puppet leaders all across the Middle East for Israel. So Israel felt safer with their nearby neighbors, but we still have Iran left. America, go spend billions and trillions for us, go into the war, you're ordered to do it, right? And now, and Trump and Lindsey Graham and all of them run after it. And now it's hurting their political careers. Being a sellout bitch for Israel, got a lot of people killed, he doesn't care about that. Cost you American families tons of money, he doesn't care about that. But it hurt his political career. Oh no, now he's torn between the bribes I'm getting and the blackmail, whatever they have, or the fact that he's going to be one of the most unpopular presidents we've ever had. He's already 20 points underwater. That, like I said earlier in the show, that was Biden at his maximum dementia was 20 points underwater, okay? So that's where Trump is now and dropping, but all for beloved Israel. Okay, so, and by the way, 150 of our guys got killed. Israel's been hit way worse than they expected. Not killed, sorry, injured, 150 of our guys, and then 7 killed. And so now we're like, I don't know. This war's got more cost than we expected, and Iran is doing better militarily than we expected. And so we'll open up the Strait of Hormuz right away. Will you? Because it doesn't look like you did. Still closed.
Well, there's been some new footage of a tanker getting attacked by the Iranians. So look, none of this is a surprise. This is all of what we had been warning about prior to getting involved, prior to attacking Iran. But Trump did it anyway. And it's just, Cenk, it just feels, I know a lot of Americans feel hopeless because if there's widespread displeasure over the fact that we got involved in this, right? Poll after poll shows that. Trump still gets dragged into it. It feels hopeless for the American people because if you can't rely on or fall back on our democratic process to elect the right leaders, and our leaders constantly lie to us when they're campaigning, obviously. Trump presented himself as the peace candidate, as an anti-war, anti-interventionist type of person. Obviously, he was lying. We're now talking about toppling, Cuba. There was a military operation in Ecuador that we didn't even cover because we didn't have enough time to cover it. Like, we are involved in so many different conflicts right now simultaneously. And so it feels hopeless, right? But the only thing that gives me hope is the fact that you do have younger Americans getting super active, super involved, very engaged. And it's not just leftists, it's not just left-wingers. We're talking about Americans on the left and the right, young people who didn't grow up on Fox News, seeing this for exactly what it is, feeling the economic repercussions more than anyone, to be quite frank. And I do think that there are going to be some changes in the future when it comes to this country and whether or not we do Israel's bidding. I mean, that's the exact reason why you have Benjamin Netanyahu cozying up with India, because he can read the tea leaves, okay? Yeah. Israel's days, as far as US support for Israel, unwavering support, those days are numbered.
Yeah, last 2 things here, because the reason, one of the things that's taken into account the least in American politics is independents. Independents are now the largest voting bloc. They are larger than Democrats, they are larger than Republicans. But we almost never talk about them. And independents decide almost all the elections. And you know what the independents have for corporate media that we all grew up with, and the politicians and the former generals like Jack Keane? They have a spinning wheel of deuces, okay? Screw you all. The independents don't believe a goddamn thing anymore, and they're absolutely right, right?
Yes.
So they've been lied to over and over and over, and that's why they're independents. Oh, you told me the Republican Party was gonna take care of me. You told me the Democratic Party was gonna take care of me. One of my favorite memes right now online is, no matter who I vote for, I always get John McCain, right? And so the independents are tired of John McCain. They prefer people who haven't been captured by the donors and by Israel, okay? So now I looked up Jack Keane while we were talking. And you're gonna be shocked to find out that he's the president of GSI LLC, which is a consulting firm. They don't say who they consult for. I have some wild guesses, but I'll leave you to guess. And he's also on the board of the Institute for the Study of War. And those think tanks are funded almost purely by defense contractors, but it doesn't matter. You don't have to guess any of that because he's also on the board of General Dynamics, a defense contractor. So if you see a former general on television or anywhere in the media, it is exceedingly likely that they actually profit from war, very literally. The more war we do, the more money they get paid by the defense contractors that they almost all work for now. So some of the biggest liars in the country are the people who are pretending to be the most patriotic. And we're all sick of their lies. They lied us into Iraq, they lied us into Iran, and now our guys are coming home in coffins and they're being gravely injured. And now our prices are up, and every single thing about this war sucks. And Anna, final thing, my hope is the dam is breaking. I remember during the Iraq war, we're the oldest show in online media history. We were on the air, okay? And Ben Mankiewicz and I were screaming, no! And everybody, 99% of media was like, this is a great idea, patriot, support the troops. You have radicals, you guys love Saddam Hussein, right? Now, a majority of the country is like, yeah, spare me that Jake Tapper, no interest in your horse crap. And so the dam is totally broken, the walls are breached. So I don't know what the establishment is gonna do when the American people turn on them.
Well, I mean, they usually have some tricks up their sleeves, but I don't know. I mean, it seems like, again, Israel's days of endless support from the United States are numbered.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.